All right, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for a video keeping you informed on the crypto market every day. My name's Austin. There are some interesting things happening right here with Ethereum right now from a tech perspective. Today we're going to go over ZK rollups and optimistic rollups and what this means for you as an Ethereum holder in 2020. Now, to help me take you through this, I want to play you two 90-second clips taken from the Unchained podcast. This just dropped last week, talking to the founding partner and managing partner of global investment firm Dragonfly Capital on why Ethereum is so far in the lead compared to other smart contract platforms. It's a 70-minute episode. There's a link down below in the description. I highly encourage you to check it out. But the first clip, with Ethereum 2.0 still years away, and many faster, more scalable smart contract Generation 3 platforms available on the market now, why are investors still more bullish on Ethereum?
Early on, I think 6-9 months ago, I really strongly believed that overwhelming likelihood was that Ethereum was not going to make it. That they just had too much technical debt. Their roadmap was way too long. People were not going to wait until 2022 or whatever for Ethereum 2.0 to get there. And the pent-up demand for using smart contracts was just going to mean that whoever got there first, whoever really offered a high throughput decentralized blockchain was just going to win the day. And that, that like Ethereum is like MS-DOS and these guys are, somebody else is like the actual technology that we'll end up using. And the probabilities now, I think, have updated to now being that Ethereum is the favorite to retain its lead. And there are a few reasons for that. One, I think, is that Ethereum has just really shored up its roadmap a lot. There's a lot more clarity now on how to actually get there, which doesn't mean any faster of a timeline, but it does literally mean the more time that we wait, the closer Ethereum is to launching. And all that time, the longer we wait, every day that passes that Ethereum doesn't get dethroned, it's more likely Ethereum wins. Second thing is that it's become really clear one of the really dominant applications for crypto is DeFi. And that wasn't really that obvious a year ago, but it's become much more obvious today. And the thing about DeFi is that DeFi, one, it's only working on Ethereum, and DeFi has a huge network effect, meaning that it's very hard to spin up a fledgling DeFi ecosystem on a chain that doesn't have other assets, doesn't have interoperability with other chains, and doesn't have high quality collateral. So if you're trying to build a DeFi ecosystem on EOS, for example, you can try, and there is like a small DeFi ecosystem on EOS, but the problem is like EOS doesn't have a lot of stable coins. EOS itself isn't as high quality collateral as ETH. It's just not as liquid. It's more volatile. And at the end of the day, those network effects just like really keep ETH locked in as being the home for DeFi. And most of DeFi doesn't require super hardcore scalability because most of the applications today, if you're taking out a giant CDP on Maker, you don't need 500 TPS in order to do that. So, and the last thing has really been almost all of the startups that we have seen that are not building their own chains are building on Ethereum because it's just the only game in town. People build on Ethereum because that's where the money is. And so if you're building a product that needs to integrate with money, you have to go build on Ethereum.
And yes, he said 3 things. Did you catch it? Did you like it? Number 1, he talked about ETH's roadmap. And yes, some things are years off in the making, but the more time that we have, the better chance ETH has. These Generation 3 quote-unquote ETH killers, they are competition, but every day we get closer to ETH 2.0, these guys really only have a certain amount of time to actually kill ETH. Number 2, he said DeFi. DeFi, major use case in this next decade for cryptocurrency, and Ethereum is king of DeFi right now. Yes, other competitors like EOS, like Tron, they have better throughput, they have better transactions per second, but Ethereum has the biggest network, meaning they have the most active developers, Ethereum is more liquid in general, and they have most of the DeFi applications today on Ethereum. And his example, taking out a giant CDP on Maker, for example, right now, today, you don't need a lot of transactions per second to accomplish this today. And of course, the number 3 reason why Ethereum is leading the charge in 2020, in his words, people are building on Ethereum because that's where the money is. So if you're building a product that needs to integrate with money, then right now you need to build on Ethereum. What do you think? Again, this all came from the Unchained podcast about a week and a half ago. If you're getting value from this video, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification as I get more updates. You do not want to miss one of our daily videos. Okay, before I clue you in on things happening with Ethereum today, optimistic rollups and ZK rollups. Okay, so if not EOS or Tezos or Cosmos or Cardano, what platforms in this year 2020 might shake things up in the smart contract cryptocurrency platform? Well, according to them, it's the projects that bring in distribution and developers from outside of the cryptocurrency bubble.
So it's very possible that if somebody brings their own distribution, so like a Telegram, although Telegram has its own problems as we've seen with recent regulation, I really didn't know what to think if Telegram were to come into crypto and bring with it a huge new ecosystem of developers. And same with Libra. The Libra would, if it were to launch in a way that allowed external developers to build stuff, they would just be bringing a huge growing of the pie in terms of the number of developers and entrepreneurs who would be building on top of them. But if you're only targeting crypto developers today, it's just really, really hard to stand out as a smart contract platform. So I think there are a lot of platforms that are launching soon that have better designs and have better architectures and will come out to market with a much more scalable product. But the thing they're really going to have to prove themselves on is just how do they win developers? How do they win the hearts and minds of people who right now, like the best developer experiences and all the other things they want to integrate with, they live in one place, and that's Ethereum.
Interesting. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying that ETH is the winner. I'm just saying that ETH right now is pulling ahead, and at least for 2020, Ethereum seems to be the favorite with developers and investors. People seem to be choosing slower, more decentralized over faster, better throughput, it seems. But what about gaming? I mean, if we're talking about mass adoption, surely gaming needs high transactions per second. Well, how would that affect Ethereum then, if gaming is the thing that ushers in the masses in 2020?
Well, I have a question for you, because you made a strong case for how if you were building a DeFi dApp, you would want to do that on Ethereum. But let's say that I wanted to build some kind of crypto gaming, something or other, where throughput really was important. Then would somebody like that, who maybe couldn't really tap into the network effect of DeFi, would that person have a different incentive when it came to choosing blockchains to develop on?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that we've seen chains start to specialize on. And a lot of chains have really tried to brand themselves actually as we're friendly for gaming. We're friendly for high throughput use cases. The problem is that, those things, one, they don't really seem to generate network effects, right? So if there's a game that has really, really high throughput on, let's say, EOS or let's say Algorand, right? That might be a great platform for that game, but that game isn't necessarily going to attract a lot of other users. It isn't necessarily going to attract a lot of other assets. It isn't going to attract a lot of other applications because so far, at least what we've seen with the games, that they're not particularly interoperable. So, and the other thing is that Ethereum is getting really, really close to developing a more robust layer 2 story.
So in his mind, it'll be these specialized ones that could potentially be the real ETH killers in terms of bringing masses to their platform. I mean, we'll see. But of course, if Ethereum can become more scalable, keep their decentralization, and believe me, there's no guarantees that any of this happens. But if they can, ETH could dominate. So that brings us to today. What is Ethereum doing today?
And the other thing is that Ethereum is getting really, really close to developing a more robust layer 2 story of how you can develop high throughput applications, but just, on layer 2, getting security from layer 1. So, companies like Matter Labs with their ZK rollups approach, or Optimistic with optimistic rollups, these things are moving ahead really rapidly. So I think a lot of people see, okay, well, if I just wait, and then, once these things are ready, I can just deploy on Ethereum and benefit from the fact that I don't need to onboard my user into a whole new blockchain that they've never heard of. I can do it all within the Ethereum ecosystem.
Like this video. If you appreciate this type of content, I'm going to link this down below in the description for you to really do a deep dive in. But let's sum up what these could mean for Ethereum if they get implemented. Optimistic rollups. Optimistic rollups, ORUs, are a simplistic layer 2 scaling solution that leverages the optimistic virtual machine to allow a roughly 100x throughput increase compared to the core Ethereum network we use today. To offer a comparison, most of us have heard of Plasma. Well, ORUs resemble Plasma, but trade off in some specific ways. For example, they trade off some scalability to enable running fully general smart contracts, Solidity, in Layer 2, secured by Layer 1. If you want the full differences in charts, I'm going to link this down below in the description. But the last thing I'll leave you with is ZK Rollups. In a nutshell, ZK Rollups is a Layer 2 scaling solution in which all funds are held by smart contracts on the main chain, while computation and storage are performed off-chain. Now, this goes hand in hand what the podcast was talking about, Matter Labs introducing ZK Sync, which is aiming to be a trustless scaling and privacy engine built on ZK Rollup. Because what do we know? If we want a successful solution in the scaling problem, we must have something that meets the demands of millions of users, this is obvious, without sacrificing decentralization. I think that's going to be the key for a successful solution. Well, ZK Sync is designed to bring a Visa scale throughput of thousands of transactions per second to Ethereum while keeping the funds as secure as in the underlying L1 accounts and maintaining a high degree of censorship resistance. So some cool things are happening right now from the technology side for Ethereum. Now, on the other hand, if there's one thing we learned, we know that Ethereum has no problem pushing back roadmap dates and other projects pushing back dates to be able to do it right, accomplish on Ethereum. The more time they push back, the better opportunity that gives Generation 3 platforms that are competing against them. But we'll see. Interesting stuff. Let me know what you think down below in the description. My name's Austin. Like always, have a great weekend, and I will see you tomorrow.